This is going to be a basic text meeting on why are we here and what can I do. Could we have a moment of silence for the addict who still suffers? Serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Okay, we're going to read out chapters out of the text here. We'll do one at a time. Halfway through, we'll do the other chapter. Why are we here? Before coming to the fellowship of NA, we could not manage our own lives. We could not live and enjoy life as other people do. We had to have something different, and we thought we had found it in drugs. We placed their use ahead of the welfare of our families, our wives, husbands, and our children. We had to have drugs at all costs. We did many people great harm, but most of all, we harmed ourselves. Through our inability to accept personal responsibilities, we were actually creating our own problems. We seemed to be incapable of facing life on its own terms. Most of us realized that in our addiction we were slowly committing suicide, but such cunning enemies of life are narcotics and sedation that we had lost the power to do anything about it. Jail did not help us at all. Medicine, religion, and psychiatry seemed to have no answers for us that we could use. All these methods having failed for us, in desperation we sought help from each other in Narcotics Anonymous. After coming to NA, we realized we were sick people who suffered from a disease like alcoholism, diabetes, or tuberculosis. There is no known cure for these. All, however, can be arrested at some point, and recovery is then possible. In NA, we follow a program borrowed from Alcoholics Anonymous. In the last 40 years, more than 1 million people have recovered in AA, most of them just as hopelessly addicted to alcohol as we were to drugs. We are deeply grateful to the AA Fellowship for pointing the way for us to a new way of life. We are addicts seeking recovery. We used drugs to cover up our feelings and did whatever was necessary to get them. Many of us woke up sick, unable to make it to work, or went to work loaded. Many of us stole to support our habit. We hurt the ones we loved. We did all these things and told ourselves we can handle it. We were looking for a way out. We couldn't face life on life's own terms. In the beginning, using was fun. For us, it became a habit and finally was necessary for survival. The progression of the disease was not apparent to us. We continued on the path of destruction, unaware of where it was leading us. We were addicts and did not know it. Through drugs, we tried to avoid reality, pain, and misery. When the drugs wore off, we realized that we still had the same problems and that they were becoming worse. We sought relief by using again and again. More drugs, more often. We sought help and found none. Often doctors didn't understand our dilemma. They tried to help by giving us medication. Our husbands, wives, and loved ones gave us what they had and drained themselves in hope that we would stop using or get better. We tried substituting one drug for another, but this only prolonged our pain. We tried limiting our usage to social amounts without success. There is no such thing as a social addict. Some of us sought an answer by churches, religion, or cultism. Some of us sought a cure by geographic change, blaming our surroundings and living situations for our problems. This attempt only gave us a chance to take advantage of new people. Some of us sought approval through sex or change of friends. This approval seeking carried us further into our addiction. Some of us tried marriage, divorce, or desertion. Regardless of what we tried, we could not escape from our disease. We reached a point in our lives where we felt like a lost cause. Our worth to our jobs, families, and friends was little or none. Many of us were unemployed or unemployable. Any form of success was frightening and unfamiliar. We didn't know what to do. As the self-loathing grew, we needed more and more to mask our feelings. We were sick and tired of pain and trouble. We were frightened and ran from the fear. No matter how far we ran, we always carried the fear with us. We were hopeless, useless, and lost. Failure had become our way of life, and self-esteem was non-existent. Perhaps the most painful of all was the desperation of loneliness. Isolation and denial of our addiction kept us moving along the downhill path. Any hope of getting better disappeared. Helplessness, emptiness, and fear became our way of life. We were complete failures. Personality change is what we really needed. Change from the self-destructive patterns of life became necessary. When we lied, cheated, or stole, we degraded ourselves in our own eyes. We had had enough of self-destruction. We experienced how powerless we really are. When nothing relieved our paranoia and When nothing relieved our paranoia and fear, we hit bottom and became ready to ask for help. You want to read some?
Yeah.
There's only a page and a half to read yet.
Hi, I'm Steve and I'm an addict.
Hi, Steve.
We were searching for an answer when we reached out and found Narcotics Anonymous. We came to our first NA meeting in defeat and didn't know what to expect. After sitting in a meeting, or several meetings, we began to feel that people cared and were willing to help. Although our minds told us we would never make it, the people in the fellowship gave us hope by insisting we could recover. We found that no matter what our past thoughts and actions were, others had felt and done the same. Surrounded by fellow addicts, we realized that we were not alone. Recovery is what happens in our meetings. Each of our lives is at stake. We found that by putting recovery first, the program works. We faced three disturbing realizations. One, we are powerless over our addiction and our lives are unmanageable. Two, although we are not responsible for our disease, we are responsible for our recovery. Three, we can no longer blame people, places, and things for our addiction. We must face our problems and our feelings. The ultimate weapon for recovery is the recovering addict. We concentrate on recovery and how we feel, not on what we have done in the past. Old friends, places, and ideas are often a threat to our recovery. We need to change our playmates, playgrounds, and playthings. When we realized we are not able to manage on our own, some of us immediately began experiencing depression, anxiety, hostility, and resentment. Petty frustrations, minor setbacks, and loneliness often made us feel that we were not getting any better. We found that we suffered from a disease, not a moral dilemma. We were critically ill, not hopelessly bad. Our disease can only be arrested through abstinence. Today we experience a full range of feelings. Before coming into the fellowship, we either felt elated or depressed with very little in between. Our negative sense of self has been replaced by a positive concern for others. Answers are provided and problems are solved. It is a great gift to feel human again. What a change from the way we used to be. That's how we know that the NA program works. It is the first thing that ever convinced us that we needed to change ourselves instead of trying to change people and situations around us. We discovered new opportunities. We found a sense of self-worth. We learned self-respect. This is a program for doing just those things. By working the steps, we come to accept the higher power's will. This acceptance leads us to recovery. We lose our fear of the unknown, and we are set free.
Well, it says on here that we can either have an open discussion or open up the podium for discussion. And with it being taped, I think we should just have a podium. I have a few things to say about that chapter. I don't know, that chapter's always given me a lot of hope every time I read it. Makes me feel like I'm not alone. Talking about why we're here, you know, and a lot of it most of it I can relate to. Feeling desperate and trying everything possible rather than to admit that I was an addict. And then finally making it to the program and that being the only thing I'm sure of now, that I'm an addict and I need recovery. I don't know, right now I don't have too much to say. I'd like to just open it up for whoever wants to come up and say something.
I'm Kurt, and I'm an addict.
Hi, Kurt.
I must say that the slogan that goes along with this convention is miracles happen. And coming here, I just, beyond a shadow of a doubt, really believe that miracles happen in the NA program. I am amazed to see how many people came from different areas and are committed to their program enough to travel to see the World Convention. I can't say honestly that I would have gone as far as a lot of people did to come here. I know that this is a God-given program because I feel it inside of me. I feel the touch of the Spirit, and I know that I'm doing the right thing. And I know that I need to stay with this program in order to keep myself from getting high again. I'm pretty much filled with gratitude when I get around this World Convention right now. I'm amazed and I'm very impressed at what the NA program's doing now. I think I think it's going to do nothing but progress all around the world. And I don't know, I'm just grateful to be here. I wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thanks, Kurt.
Yeah, my name's Steve. I'm a recovering addict.
Hi, Steve.
Why are we here? I'm here to save my ass. You know, it was pretty bad before I came here, and it's gotten a lot better, slowly. I've had to go through a lot, but it's not easy, but it is worth it, you know. It's amazing that drug addicts can hold conventions. You know, that just blows me away, you know. The only convention I ever had was in my bathroom, you know, and that was because people wanted something from me or because I wanted to get high. And it's just great to be here. And it's true that addicts can best help other addicts recover because we all know how we feel. You know, somebody's been through it before, or else I can see where I've been before, and it shows me that I am recovering. It just does me a lot of good to be around other addicts. You know I belong here, and I know that there is recovery here if I make the effort to get it, you know. I went through a lot to get here. I'm down in Florida, and I had to plan for this vacation and this convention months in advance, and I worked my way to it. And before, I could never stick with anything for more than a couple weeks, and I'd be off on another thing. But it's helped me out a lot just to stay straight, knowing I was coming here. You know, I wouldn't want that on my conscience to have used within the last couple months. You know, but it's been through the program, through going to my meetings, that helped me stay clean. I couldn't have did it just by waiting to come here, because I need the other people in the fellowship from my hometown. And it's just great to be here. Thanks.
My name's Jim, and I'm an addict.
Hi, Jim.
And you know, in my home group in Trenton, we usually read that little section about why we're here, and I came into a Narcotics Anonymous meeting for the first time because I was allowed to talk about drugs and I could say fuck without people freaking out, and that's what I thought Narcotics Anonymous was. And a few months later, I went to Milwaukee for a convention, and I found out that Narcotics Anonymous was a fellowship that worked. And where I came from, I couldn't see that. And I felt something at that convention that I never felt before in my life. That feeling of being home and being accepted for what I was, not in spite of what I was. Not being put up with, but being loved and being hugged and being touched. And I was so moved that whole weekend. You know, I had never been hugged, you know, up to that point. And I had been abstinent for about 9 months at that time. And I felt this hope that, you know, that all the addicts in my town that weren't making it, you know, I felt hope that there was hope for them. And I wanted to bring back to my hometown what I found in Milwaukee. And it was at that time that I kind of made a commitment to myself to find out about Narcotics Anonymous and to try to create more meetings and create, you know, a fellowship that would work for people that wouldn't normally have made it. And it was real frustrating because nobody knew where I was coming from. I came back from this convention, I started hugging people, and they couldn't handle it, and I soon couldn't handle it either. And I lost it. I had lost all that feeling, and I had to travel. You know, I had to travel out of my state to find another NA meeting where all that love and all those hugs were there. And I found myself going to more and more of these conventions, and every time I went there, I brought people from my hometown with me, and the fellowship grew, and the meetings grew, and somewhere along the line, I made a decision that my recovery was going to be in Narcotics Anonymous. And sometimes I catch a lot of shit for that, for making a stand in my program and where I choose to recover. But the reason why I made that decision and the reason why I continue to live this way, you know, and recover in this fellowship is because, you know, I have been given a gift of freedom from my addiction, you know, and it was through the 12 steps, you know, and being able to find a power greater than myself that I could turn to for strength, and it was through developing a faith that worked, and I choose to carry that message to other addicts in Narcotics Anonymous, and sometimes it gets real frustrating. And I need to go to a place where I can find strength. You know, I need to go to a place to find people that choose to recover the way I choose to recover. And sometimes I need to come all the way to Chicago to do that. And I get something when I come to these conventions. I get filled up, you know, and all my walls get broken down, and I'm like an exposed nerve after being hugged thousands and thousands of times. I can't get that anywhere else. I can't get that. I've never gotten that anywhere, and I can't get that anywhere except here. And you know, one thing it said in that chapter about helplessness and emptiness and fear. And all those things have been taken away from me, you know, through trying to live these 12 steps, and by sharing what I found with other addicts, and by trying to live by the principles of this fellowship. And I'm not empty anymore. That was the worst thing about my life, my whole life, was that I had no purpose. My life had no meaning. You know, just like our literature says, I used to live and I lived to use. That was my life. That was my purpose. And today I have found a home, and I have a purpose in life. You know, for me to just enjoy my own life one day at a time, and by trying to carry this message of hope to the new guy, you know, walking through the door, and This fellowship means more to me than anything else in my life. It's, Narcotics Anonymous is more important than my job. It's more important than my girlfriend. It's more important than my blood family. It's more important than what I want with my life. What I have felt and what I have learned, and what I've tried to show to other people, about this recovery and about this hope, that we can recover and that we can live happy lives without using, this is the most important thing in my life. And in the beginning, I couldn't understand why, people would quit their jobs to go to conventions, and people would go through all the stuff that they went through to be a part of this fellowship. I couldn't understand how anybody could make a stand like that for something, because I never could, until I wound up in one of these conventions, and I realized that there is something here that I want very badly, and I'll keep coming back to get it. And wherever they move this next convention, I'll be there. It doesn't matter whether they move to Australia or whether they move to England or whether they move over to Japan. It doesn't matter to me. I'm going to go because I love this fellowship, and I'd do anything for it. And that's why I'm here. Save my life. That's all.
Hi, I'm Bob, and I'm an addict. Why am I here? I'm here because I belong here, and I need to be here. When Sandy opened the meeting with a moment of silence for the addict that still suffers, I couldn't help but be reminded of what it was like when I was suffering without a program. And my life had no hope. I had no hope in my life. And every time we start a meeting like that, I feel like I'm at home. I feel like I have a purpose, and that I found something that is much more powerful than anything else I've had in my life. I've recently changed locations, and I'm living in a place now that doesn't have an NA program. I stay active in the AA program, but something's missing. And when I walked in these doors of this hotel today, and one of the first things that I saw was people embracing one another and having a good time, and I just felt at home. I felt like I'm in a place with people that understand me and that I can be myself. An addict with people that understand, and a person that's trying to recover. I've learned from the program since my recovery has been starting to grow a little, and I have shown some growth in my life, that I can be a help to others by living the NA program, by living the NA way, by being an example. And what a tremendous feeling that is, to be able to share with someone and to let them witness what can happen if you're with people that care, and there is somebody that'll be there with you. I am so grateful to be here today. It's incredible to walk in and see the wheels turning, the people that are dedicating their time and their effort to help others to make this thing click. It's an awe-inspiring opportunity for me, and I'm very grateful to be here, and I'll see you next year.
Hi everybody, my name is Jeff. I'm an addict.
Hi, Jeff.
From Milwaukee, suburb of Chicago. I'm real grateful to be here. That's why I'm here. I'm grateful to be here. There's so many things that I can say and, tell you where I came from, and I don't think we have time. And I don't think you need to hear it, because we all came from the same place, whether it was from the street or from an office, or, whether you're a school teacher or a factory worker or student or whatever, we all came here with one purpose in mind, and it's a bond. It's a bond that we all have. Don't matter what we are or who we are or where we came from. That bond is addiction. It's a disease. When I first discovered that I had this disease of addiction, I wasn't overwhelmed with gratitude or happiness, or I was pissed. I was angry, you know. I mean, I always wanted to be different. I always wanted a lot of attention. Some ways were negative, some were positive ways. But when I found out that I had this disease of addiction, I was ashamed, you know, and I felt that it was my fault. When I came around, we didn't have a basic recovery text. We didn't even have a proposed basic recovery text. There wasn't even a manuscript. All we had was a little white book. And all we had was like 3 or 4 meetings in the state. And my first World Convention, I saw a manuscript that had gotten together by some literature committees, literature conferences. And it was a very emotional feeling that Narcotics Anonymous also had something, you know, something more, you know, because we needed more. I needed more. I saw addicts in my hometown that were going through treatment centers, and that's all we had. You know, most of our meetings were in treatment centers, and therapy wasn't working. Not the type of therapy. I guess it still ain't working. To be sociably acceptable is not then and does not equal today recovery. It can, but it's not all there was. And I believe that at one point in time that if I got back in good graces with my family and the people that I worked with and became a productive member of society, that would equal recovery. And when I had all that, I still didn't feel right, and the pain, and I wasn't done. You know, I went back out in a relapse. 3.5 years ago, I made a decision. Never use a chemical again. And the reason I made that is not because God touched me or whatever. I don't know. Maybe He did. I don't really know. I just knew something inside, and it came from a recovery text, you know, that I didn't need to use anymore. You know, there was all sorts of people that told me why I shouldn't use and what it was causing me, and I could probably tell them a whole lot more, you know, than what they were. I knew that already, you know. But I believed that I needed to use to live on this earth, to do the things that I had to do, like work in a factory, raise kids, and to feel comfortable, that I needed to use. And I came to believe, after coming to meetings and so forth, that I didn't have to use anymore. That I could be happy. That I could go about my business. Sometimes be comfortable and sometimes not be comfortable. You know, just live. You know, and that in order to live in this world and to get everything out of it that I deserve as a human being, that I was one of those people that couldn't use. And I found it necessary in my program to stay real close to addicts who are recovering, the newcomer, the old-timer. Everybody has something to offer me, and I'm real sick. I need a whole lot of help, you know. And finding that getting active in service is real important. And getting down to the basics, like picking up this book, and this is a book of Narcotics Anonymous. I suggest you read it and study it. It's got all the tools in there that you ever need for an addict, you know, to live. And I didn't know that for a long time. In this chapter, why are we here? You know, the answers are in there. It explains a whole lot more than what I can ever say or ever communicate to people, you know. I guess we're here for, like I said before, with that common bond, addiction, you know. We want freedom from that addiction, and we find it in the meetings. You know, we find it by listening to others or sharing our own personal feelings, you know, dealing with our emotions. dealing with our thoughts, asking, reaching out. You know, we're here because we reached out. You know, if you think about it, in our first meeting, or maybe somewhere along the line after everything else that we tried didn't work, you know, we surrendered to NA. I believe today, you know, I believe that this fellowship saved my life. I believe that I owe. You know, I've heard people in me, and boy, Sandy knows, I get real ticked off when I hear people in meetings say, this is a selfish program. I've read this book, and I don't see it in there. I'm sorry. This is the most unselfish fellowship, program, group of people that I've ever met in my whole life. There's nothing in the steps, there's nothing in the chapters that are conducive to selfishness. In fact, my book reads that the root of our problem, okay, is selfishness and self-centeredness. And the only way to work on that, to expel that, is to work the steps, you know. I don't see anything selfish in the 12th step, you know. Answering the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know where you all come from, but it gets cold up in Wisconsin in the wintertime, you know. And my car's got ice on it, and somebody wants me to pick them up, or, you know, whatever, because they're having a hard time. I don't want to do it. But something happens in between the time I get up and get dressed and throw that first cup of coffee in my head, and from the time I go home. I have an experience during that time, you know, a conscious contact of God. That's when I stop thinking about Jeff, you know, and that's the only time that my character defects or my shortcomings are removed from me, when I'm doing God's work, you know. And I believe today that the work that He's got set out for me and every other addict is to carry the message the best way we know how. I believe that. That is not a thought. My thoughts got me here. You know, my opinions got me here. My beliefs were through my experiences, and the experiences that I've had through Narcotics Anonymous have taught me how to live. Woody Allen made a statement. That 80% of life is just showing up. So just come to meetings, show up, you know. There may be somebody who's coming to that meeting the first time, or maybe they've got 5, 6, 10 years clean that are having a hard time. They're seeing you come there every week, picking up coffee cups and so forth, and you're an example. Or maybe you got a family member that's one of us but doesn't know it yet, or somebody you work with, you know. There's people watching us, you know, and we are responsible. You know, we're responsible. So carry your program proud. You know, the way you carry yourself, the way you walk on the street, in a meeting, so forth. I don't know. I don't have too much more to say. I'm just real grateful to be here. I'm grateful that I'm clean today. I'm grateful that all these people showed up for this convention. I love conventions. I got cleaned up at a convention out in California, and they're real special to me. I love seeing the people come back from other conventions that I've met, and if this is your first convention, you know, do yourself a favor and sit down and share with somebody, you know. Don't lock yourself up in a room, and, you know, you're cheating yourself, and you're cheating somebody else out of an experience. And all I got to say about this book is I'm grateful that we have it. You know, I'm grateful we've got something to go on now, that we've got more to go on now, more than we did before. I love you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, John. Would you like to share?
My name is Thomas, and I'm an addict.
Hi, Thomas.
I know it's only by the grace of God that I'm here. From D.C. at the time being, you know, by way of Pittsburgh. But, you know, the topic is like why we are here. And I guess it's like only by the grace of God, because like I'm not dead. You know, the blessings that I had to be alive today. I guess because like I was never all there. You know, and like that's why I'm here now, I guess, to sort of like to make amends to me and to people. You know, because like I honestly believe that I was a menace to society and to myself. And God has blessed me enough just to give me an opportunity to do something about it, you know, and like I'm real grateful. to be a part of this fellowship. It's something I always wanted to really, I always seek to be a part of something, and I really just didn't know what to do. I guess that's the reason I was out there practicing the way I did, because like I was accepted, and I just didn't know what the drugs was doing to me. And they did what they were supposed to. They anesthetized my brain and helped me forget about, the pain that I was going through. The day this fellowship is doing just about the opposite. It's turning all these energies around for me, and the day I'm realizing the benefits that I get out of this fellowship, the love, the concern that I get from here, just the feelings that I get in touch with today that I never was able to deal with in the past due to all my inadequacies. It says in that there section of, why we are here about how jails, doctors, and lawyers, and nobody else could help us, preachers and, church and all that. And I tried all of those, and they didn't work. They didn't work for me because basically I guess what I was missing Thomas. I heard this poem one time that's sort of I heard two of them, matter of fact, and I'm going to quote. And one of them is that, this man had this little boy, his son, and his son was bugging him, and he wanted to watch a football game. And his son kept on annoying him, trying to distract him. And so what the man did, he got this big puzzle, a couple thousand pieces, and he put his son in the room with the puzzle, and he just scrambled the puzzle up and threw it on the floor. And he said, when you get through with this, then you come back and, and we'll talk or we'll do whatever. And the boy went in there and he sort of took about 5 minutes to get the puzzle together. And the man was just astonished, because the boy come back in and started bugging him again, and the commercial just went off good, And the man said, that's fantastic. How did you do that? And the little boy said, well, on the back of the puzzle was a picture of a man. I put the man together, and the puzzle was all together. The whole world fell in place. And that's basically one of the ways that I see this here thing is that if I get me together, then everything else will sort of fall in place. I don't have to try to be taking everybody else's inventory. Why I'm here today is to get my life together. And in me getting my life together, it also ties in what I can do. If I get myself together, then everybody else automatically just falls in. Just like I did when I was out there practicing. My whole life was consisted of being around negative people when I was out there practicing. The day is turned around. My whole life consists of all positive people. Not perfect, but positive. And this is a practiced way of life. It's not something that you just walk into and get it, just because you want it. This is something that you have to actually earn, and I'm realizing this more and more every day. The other poem is a real short one, and it says I sought my soul I could not see. I sought my God eluded me. And I sought my brother, and I found all three. And in this here program and the sharing of it is how I'm able to find myself. Because I can't see myself of myself. I need somebody else, a reflection. Someone to point the ways out to me, my wrongs. And in this fellowship, we have this kind of a bond where we share with each other honestly. It's no more will pat me on my back to make me feel good about myself. If I stink, you'll tell me I stink, and you'll tell me to go wish up. The real love that you get in these fellowships is a necessity for me. And this is a way of life, and I really appreciate being a part of this fellowship. And coming from where I come from, I've been around for about 5 years, and this is the best thing that ever happened to me. And I've had a lot of things that happened to me. I've had plenty of money. I've had a lot of women. I just had the better half of the other side of life, and none of it seemed to work. Jails didn't help none. The doctors didn't help. The preachers, church. And when I got here, you people introduced me to Thomas. And that was the missing part. What I can do today is to be the best person I can be. To be that power of example. to work on Thomas and to help by sharing me with others, you know. And I don't know, it seems so far that that's the best thing that I've found. That's the best remedy to this problem that I can see as far as like what I can do, you know, today. And that's just to keep things simple, you know, and work with me. Pray, you know, go to meetings, don't pick up, you know, and it's just basically that simple. This fellowship is, I don't know, just wonderful, man. And these conventions, like, I love them. You know, it seems like I strive off of them, you know, yearly, you know, and wherever they're at, I try to get to them. You know, it doesn't make any difference where they're at. It's just like, you know, somebody said, like, you know, where the best dope is in New York, you know, or the best dope is in Chicago, you know, I try to get there, you know, and I found out the best dope is in conventions, you know. So I try to get here, you know. I just sort of like change my attitude about things, you know, and like I have to share that, especially with the newcomers and the old comers, you know, and that keeps me intact because like they make me aware of like whatever progress or whatever I need to do, you know. Today I have friends, man, real friends, you know, which you know, in the past, like if I didn't have a dollar a partner fare, you know, my main man, you know, just left, you know, and I found that out, you know, like, well, if you didn't want to partner, well, I'll talk to you later. You know, today it doesn't make any difference like what I have. People, as long as I have the willingness to stay dry, to stay clean, you know, like people will be with me. I heard where my man was mentioning about like getting up, you know, taking those calls early in the morning, you know, and like those are blessings to me because like those are part of the things about doing things that you don't want to do. You know, if I did everything that I wanted to do, I'd probably be back out there practicing one more time. You know, today I realized that I have to put some discipline in my life and do some of the things that I don't want to do. I have to go to meetings. You know, it seems like the longer that I stay away from that drug, that chemical, you know, the more, you know, closer I am to the next one, you know. And if I don't keep this here in mind, if I don't stay in one of these meetings where I can be reminded of where I came from, like the same person will use again, you know. I know at one time, like I really feel as if, well, I can slow down now on my meetings, you know. And I forgot about those character defects, you know. They started kicking up, man, and like, you know, it was only by the grace, man, that I didn't pick up. You know, but today I realized through my own experience and through other people's experience by going to meetings and hearing it being shared, you know, that I don't have any guarantee. You know, the only guarantee that I have is if I don't pick up, you know. Nothing else is promised that I'll stay clean. You know, as I stated, like I'm just grateful to be a part of this fellowship and like, you know, this is a way of life for me. You know, and like, you know, I'm going to keep coming back because like, I not only want to, but I need to, you know. Thank you all.
I'm Sandy. I'm an addict. We're about halfway through with this, so we should get started reading Chapter 5. Chapter 5 is What Can I Do? Begin your own program by taking Step 1 from the previous chapter, How It Works. When we fully concede to our innermost selves that we are powerless over our addiction, we have taken a big step in our recovery. Many of us have some reservations at this point, so give yourself a break and be as thorough as possible from the Go on to step 2 and so forth, and as you go, you will come to an understanding of the program for yourself. If you are in an institution of any kind, you have gone through complete withdrawal and have stopped using for the present. Now, with a clear mind, try this way of life. Upon release, continue your daily program and contact a member of NA. Do this by mail, by phone, or in person. Better yet, come to our meetings. Here you will find answers to some of the things that may be disturbing you now. If you are not in an institution, the same holds true. Stop using for today. Most of us can do for 8 or 12 hours what seems impossible for a longer period of time. If the obsession or compulsion becomes too great, put yourself on a 5-minute basis of not using. Minutes will grow to hours and hours to days, and so you will break the habit and gain some peace of mind. The real miracle happens when you realize that the need for drugs has in some way been lifted from you. You have stopped using and started to live. The first step to recovery is to stop using. We cannot expect the program to work for us if our minds and bodies are still clouded by drugs. We can do this anywhere, even in prison or an institution. We do it any way we can, cold turkey or in a detox, just as long as we get clean. Developing the concept of God as we understand Him is a project we can undertake. We can also use the steps to improve our attitudes. Our best thinking is what got us into trouble. We recognize the need for change. Our disease involves much more than using, and so our recovery must involve much more than simple abstinence. Recovery is an active change of our attitudes and ideas. The ability to face problems is necessary to stay clean. If we had problems in the past, it is unlikely that simple abstinence will provide the solution to them. Guilt and worry can keep us from living in the here and now. The denial of our disease and other reservations keep us sick. Many of us feel that we cannot possibly have a happy life without drugs. We suffer from fear and insanity and feel that there is no escape from using. We may fear rejection from our friends if we get clean. These feelings are common to the addict seeking recovery. We could be suffering from an overly sensitive ego. Some of the most common excuses for using are loneliness, self-pity, and fear. Dishonesty, closed-mindedness, and unwillingness are 3 of the greatest enemies. Self-obsession is the core of our disease. We have learned that old ideas and old ways won't help us to stay clean or live a better life. If we allow ourselves to stagnate and cling to terminal hipness and fatal cool, we are giving in to the symptoms of our disease. One of the problems is that we found it easier to change our perception of reality. We must give up this old concept and face the fact that reality and life go on whether we choose to accept them or not. We can only change the way we react and the way we see ourselves. This is necessary for us to accept that change is gradual and recovery is an ongoing process. A meeting a day, at least the first 90 days, is a good idea. There is special feelings that come over a person with our disease when they discover that there are other people who share their difficulties, past and present. At first, we can do little more than go to meetings. Probably we cannot remember a single word, person, or thought from our first meeting. In time, we relax and enjoy the atmosphere of recovery. Meetings strengthen our recovery. We may be scared at first because we don't know anyone. Some of us think we don't need meetings. When we hurt, though, we go to a meeting for relief. Meetings keep us in touch with where we've been, but more importantly, with where we could go in our recovery. As we go to meetings regularly, we learn the value of talking with other addicts who share our problems and goals. We have to open up and accept the love and understanding we need in order to change. When we become acquainted with the fellowship and its principles, we begin to put them into action. We start to grow. We apply our efforts to our most obvious problems and let go of the rest. We do the job at hand and as we progress, new opportunities for improvement present themselves. Our new friends in the fellowship will help us. Our common effort is recovery. Clean, we face the world together. We no longer have to feel backed into a corner and at the mercy of events and circumstances. It makes all the difference to have friends who care if we hurt. We find our place in the fellowship, and we join a group whose meetings help us in our recovery. We have been trustworthy for so long that most of our friends and families will doubt our recovery because they think it won't last. We need people that understand our disease and the recovery process. At meetings, we can share with other addicts, ask questions, and learn about our disease. We learn new ways to live. We are no longer limited to our old ideas. Gradually, we replace old habits with new ways of living. We become willing to change. We go to meetings regularly, get and use telephone numbers, read literature, and most importantly, we don't use. We learn to share with others. If we don't tell someone we are hurting, they will seldom see it. When we reach out for help, we can receive it. Another tool for the newcomer is involvement with the fellowship. As we become involved, we learn to keep the program first and take it easy in other matters. We begin immediately by asking for help and trying out the recommendations of the people at the meetings. It is beneficial to allow others in the group to help us. In time, we will be able to pass on what has been given. We learn that service will get us out of ourselves. Our work can begin with simple things: emptying ashtrays, making coffee, cleaning up, setting up a meeting, opening the door, chairing a meeting, and passing out literature. Doing these things helps us feel a part of the fellowship.
Hi, my name's Steve, and I'm an addict. We have found it helpful to have a sponsor and to use this sponsor. Sponsorship is merely a way of describing the special interests of an experienced member that can mean so much to newcomers after they have turned to NA for help. Sponsorship is also a two-way street, helping both the newcomer and the sponsor. The sponsor's clean time and experience may well depend on the availability of sponsors in a locality. Sponsorship is also the responsibility of the group for helping the newcomer. It is implied and informal in its approach, but it is the heart of the NA way of recovery from addiction, one addict helping another. One of the most profound changes in our lives is in the realm of the personal relationships. Our earliest involvements with others often begin with our sponsor. As a newcomer, we find it easier if we have someone whose judgment we can trust and confide in. We find trusting others with more experience to be a strength rather than a weakness. Our experience reveals that working the steps is our best guarantee against a relapse. Our sponsor and friends can advise us regarding how to work these steps. We can talk over what steps mean with them. They can help us to prepare for the spiritual experience of living the steps. Asking God as we understand Him for help improves our understanding of the steps. When we are prepared, we must try out our newly found way of life. We learn that the program won't work when we try to adapt it to our life. We must learn to adapt our life to the program. Today we seek solutions, not problems. We try what we learn on an experimental basis. We keep what we need and leave the rest. We find that by working the steps, communicating with our higher power, talking to our sponsors, and sharing with newcomers, we are able to grow spiritually. The 12 steps are used as a program of recovery. We learn that we can go to our higher power for help in solving problems. When we find ourselves sharing difficulties that used to have us on the run, we experience good feelings that give us strength to begin seeking the will of God for us. We believe that our higher power will take care of us. If we honestly try to do God's will to the best of our ability, we can handle the results of anything that happens. Seeking our higher power's will is a spiritual principle found in the steps. And working the steps and practicing the principles simplifies our lives and changes our old attitudes. When we admit that our lives have become unmanageable, we don't have to argue our point of view. We have to accept ourselves as we are. We no longer have to be right all the time. When we give ourselves this freedom, we can allow others to be wrong. Freedom to change seems to come mainly after acceptance of ourselves. Sharing with fellow addicts is a basic tool in our program. This help can only come from another addict. it is help that says, I've had something like that happen to me, and I did this. For anyone who wants our way of life, we share experience, strength, and hope instead of preaching and judging. If sharing the experience of our pains helps just one person, it will have been worth the suffering. We strengthen our own recovery when we share it with others who ask for help. If we keep what we have to share, we lose it. Words mean nothing until we put them into action. We recognize our spiritual growth when we are able to reach out and help others. When we reach out to help others, we are participating in the 12th step and try to carry the message of recovery to the addict who still suffers. We learn that we keep what we have only by giving it away. Also, our experience shows many personal problems are resolved when we get out of ourselves and offer to help those in need. We recognize that one addict can best understand and help another. No matter how much we give, there's always another addict seeking help. We cannot afford to lose sight of the importance of sponsorship and taking a special interest in a confused addict who wants to stop using. Experience shows clearly that those who get the most out of the NA program, are those to whom sponsorship is important. Sponsorship responsibilities are welcomed by us and accepted as opportunities to enrich our personal NA experience. Working with others is only a beginning of service work. NA service allows us to spend much of our time directly helping the suffering addicts, as well as ensuring that Narcotics Anonymous itself survives. This way, we keep what we have by giving it away. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sandy. I'm an addict. I got a few things to say about this before I open up the podium. I don't know. I'm really grateful to be here. I don't know. I didn't say much after reading the first one. Didn't really know what to say. Now I have a few things to say after hearing people share. I'm real grateful to be here at this convention. I don't know, reading both those chapters, I think it's in places like this and at meetings and conventions, whenever I'm around a group of addicts, I can see things a lot more clearly. I was real frantic when I walked in the door yesterday, and that's all gone, you know, and that's real nice. A lot of times I get real hard on myself, and I refuse to look at the good things. It's like I only look at how sick I am, and I forget about trying to get better, you know. I just concentrate on how sick I am, and that's not real good for me, you know. And coming to places like this, it helps me to see, you know, I can see the goodness in everybody else. And that helps me to see that there's goodness in me too. And that's real nice. That's real important for my recovery. I don't know, when I first came around this program, I went to meetings just because I didn't know what else to do, you know. I felt at home, and like I said, you probably won't remember anything that's said or any of the people, and I didn't. The only thing I remember from my first meeting is I started crying, and somebody told me that I was okay, put their hand on my shoulder, and that's just about everything that I remember. And they told me to keep coming back, and I did. I kept finding out where more meetings were. I was going to 4 or 5 meetings a week, and I just kept coming back. And for a long time, I didn't even know why. And at that time, that was a while ago up in our area, there wasn't a real sponsorship program or whatever. You know, the groups didn't help newcomers find sponsors, and I didn't know what a sponsor was, so I didn't have one for a long time. Then the first 3 sponsors I had ended up going up and using. I don't know if I just didn't choose right or if what happened. But things started working for me. I started listening to what people were saying, and started working the steps, you know, and that's what I can do today, you know, being an example and working the steps. I don't know, I'm at a loss for words. I think I'll open it up now. Maybe I'll say some more later. Whoever wants to come up and share, come on up. We got about a half an hour.
Yeah, I'm still Steve and I'm still an addict.
Hi, Steve.
What can I do? First thing I can do, I guess, is get my own house in order. I can look out for my own program, and I can make sure that NA unity, you know, comes first as well as my own program. I can do what I can in service, and I'm involved in service back where I come from. I started a meeting before I came up here, and I have to, when I first got out of treatment, I remember my first meeting too, I was just scared. I didn't know what these people were going to do to me, you know. I was very vulnerable because I was asking for help and I'd never done that before, you know. But it turned out that it was all right to ask for help, you know. That's the way these other people got there. And since I've gone to a meeting almost every day in my recovery, you know. I've been in here a while and I still go to a meeting every time I can. I go to 2 or 3 a day whenever I feel the need. And I go to them whenever I don't feel the need because that's where I belong. And when I first got out of treatment, I wanted to go out and save the rest of the world. I wanted to save my friends. I thought I was so smart, you know. I had been through treatment. I learned all this neat stuff. But I hadn't really accepted the fact that I was an addict, you know, and I thought I had something to give when I was just a little baby in the program. So I went out and I hung around my old friends for a while, and I didn't change my behavior, which is what they told me to do. And I went out and I used again. And that really woke me up to the fact that I better start listening and not thinking I know it all. So I came back to the program the same day and I started listening. I started opening up and letting people know what's happening, whether I feel good, bad, or indifferent. I just let it all out. I try to talk at every meeting I go to, unless it's a speaker's meeting. And it helped. You know, something happened somewhere down the road. I don't remember when, but all of a sudden I just began to accept I'm an addict and I need this program. And since I did that, really, things have really taken off. I've gained a lot in this program. I just had to let the rest of the world do its own thing and work on my own recovery, you know, and I had to help out addicts, newcomers in the program. But I can't go out and make anybody come in the program that doesn't want to, and that's what I was trying to do before, because I'm powerless, you know. I have to remember that first step and take that first step every day. As long as I do that, I'm going to be all right. And then when people want to come in the program, it'll be on their own time. I know that, and I can just be there to help because I'm responsible for that. But since I let all my old friends go do their own thing, 2 of them have came in the program. They came to me asking me for help, and I was there to share my strength, experience, and hope. And one of them's gone back out, but that's all right. I'm still here. You know, I'm powerless over what they do, and the one's still in. But it's just neat to know that I have something to offer today, you know, through working some of the steps. I haven't worked them all, but I'm trying. You know, I take them nice and slow because my recovery, I used for half my life, and it's going to take a while for me to get through the steps. I try to work them till I accept them. You know, I can know them and all that, but I have to learn to accept them deep down, and then I'll be ready to move on to another one. But I think they kind of, if I work in the first step, the other ones just kind of get me, you know. And it's just funny how that works, you know. That's my program. I can see where I move along slowly but surely. And the first one was a real hard one. There's a lot to do with that powerlessness. You know, I came in and said, yeah, I'm powerless over drugs, you know, but I'm also powerless over a lot more than just drugs. My old behavior that made me go out and use, you know, drugs seem to be a symptom of my problem. My old attitudes, my old behavior were why I used. I mean, I'm an addict, that's a disease, but the drugs were just a bad symptom of it. What I can do today is, like I said, just keep my own self in order and be ready to help whoever needs help, you know. But I can't do that if I'm out there using. So I just work on my own recovery, and then like somebody was saying, all these other things. Once I get my own house in order, all these other things just come around naturally. And it's just neat how the program works, you know. It's good to be here. Thank you.
My name is Gary, and I'm an addict. You know, I was sitting back there thinking, you know, why are we here? You know, and it's very simple for me, you know, I'm here because before I wasn't all there, and I don't have no other place to go. When I came to this program, it was on a con to get out of going back to jail. But I did one thing while I was in the rehab and getting those little papers signed for my PO, and that was, I listened. You know, sometimes I was in the back of the room hiding out. Sometimes I was in the front. You know, but I listened, you know, and I know today that I didn't hear everything that was said in the meetings that I went to and the rehab that I went to, but I feel my higher power let me hear what I needed to hear, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be here today. So, you know, the reason why I'm here, you know, is because this is my home. Very simply, this is my home. This program saved my life, and it's gotten me back some sanity. I'm not completely sane, but you know, I can remember when I first came around, I was going to a few different fellowships. I was calling myself a few different things, you know. And I asked my sponsor one day, well, I didn't ask him, he come up to me and he asked me if I thought I was on a game show, you know, because I was calling myself an alcoholic, an addict, cross addict, dual addicted. I says, what are you talking about, a game show? He says, yeah, you remember years ago that game show, What's My Line? You know, and I got to thinking about that, you know, and he went ahead and told me, he says, you're an addict. He says, it's plain and simple. It's written on the wall. I'm an addict, and that's why I'm here. As far as what I can do, you know, I started asking myself questions in the rehab, you know, as what can I do, because I started relating to some of the feelings and things that were coming out there, you know, but I wouldn't dare share anything because I'd have to admit that I had a problem. But I finally did, you know, because what they did for me doing all that listening has made me take an honest look at myself. You know, and when I found out that, yeah, I do have a problem, you know, and then I started asking myself that question, what can I do? I found out a whole lot of things I can do. You know, I can work on becoming a better person today, a responsible person, a productive member of society. I can be there to help people that are coming in. I've been back to the rehab that I went through. You know, I go down there because that's where I first got introduced to this program, and I go down there and I share once in a while. Like lately, I've had last 3 times I've been down there, there's been like 2 or 3 of my old running partners in there, and today there's 4 of them that are still clean. 2 of them chose to go back out, but I guess that's what they needed to do, you know. I know today what I can do is be here for the newcomer and share myself as you have all shared yourself so openly. And, you know, this program, I'm truly grateful to this program and the people in these rooms. You know, I've had the opportunity to do some traveling and meet people from different areas and that, and, you know, and it's like every person that I meet, I get something from. You know, and what I do with that stuff that I get from them is I take it with me, I keep it, I put it on a shelf for further reference, you know, in case I could use it to maybe help someone else find their way through these doors and to go into recovery. Now, I was talking to my sponsor, you know, not long after I got clean, you know, and I was having a little trouble with that, what can I do? And he told me very simply, he says, you can get off your ass and start working the steps. You know, because at first, you know, I really didn't know what a program was, you know, I was going to meetings, I was staying clean. But I still had a void inside of me, and I wanted to know why. You know, why is one of the questions I ask myself all my life. You know, but today it's going in I'm working it towards a positive way, you know. I'm going to the positive answer of the question instead of the negative one. I started working a program in that, you know, and I started feeling better about myself. And today I just really feel super. And I love you all. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Someone else want to come and share? We have about 15 minutes left.
I'm an addict. My name's Bill, and
Bill.
it's good to come down from I was upstairs in the bigger room, and I decided to come down here in the smaller room. And I don't know why I'm here. It's because I hurt too long, and I couldn't handle the disease of addiction any longer out there. And that's how I got here, was through a lot of pain. And I know in the basic text of recovery, it shares a lot about that there, that pain of addiction, and no longer can face myself in the mirror. And I wanted to die, but I couldn't commit suicide. And I didn't know how to go on and live either at the same time. And the only thing left for me was recovery, was getting clean. And I was luckily to have been introduced to the fellowship before, and I knew where to go, and I knew where to come to, and I come into Narcotics Anonymous, and I had been into recovery and relapse for 5 years before I got clean, and so I knew that when it's, you know, it had to be more than while I was here. It had to be in the next part with this workshop's about what can I do, you know. And for me, I ask myself that question today yet on a continuous basis. What can I do to continue my recovery? You know, and I was sitting upstairs and I was listening to people, and a lot of my problems aren't, I don't have obsessions and compulsions to use a chemical today. I've been relieved of that over 3.5 years ago. You know, and my problems today are more of complacency, more of drifting back into old habits of walking, talking, not wanting to do things, wanting to sit in my ass, and that's where I have to ask myself, what can I do to continue this growth? And you know, it's something that I know I have to make my phone calls, I have to go to my meetings, I have to be involved in the service under Narcotics Anonymous, I need to sponsor people, I have to be sponsored, and I run over almost the last 5 years, and I say, well, you know, when's this ever going to end? You know, and that's when I'm usually getting into self-pity, when I start questioning myself and not having gratitude. And I know that when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I have to do is surrender, and do that there, surrendering and asking a God of my understanding to help keep me clean and recover on a daily basis is what relieves me of this compulsion and to use a chemical, and it's what has taken this from me over the last 3.5 years. And but I know I'm that close to getting high at the same time, you know, and it's what keeps my memory green on this here is by sponsoring people, by welcoming the newcomer when they walk through the door, by making coffee. You know, I think the most spiritual thing that I can do today in the fellowship is go to a meeting early and set up, make some coffee, and be there to welcome the newcomer. And I believe that's the most spiritual service work that I can be involved in, that selfishly I've given of myself. And it's easy for me to go to meetings, it's easy for me to go to area service, to regionals, and now the World Service Conference. But what's hard for me is to do what I did when I first came into Narcotics Anonymous, and that's get to the meeting early. That's set up and thinking, well, the newcomer should do this, you know, and this person is still a newcomer. This person still has to do this. It's not just for the brand new person. The brand new person, they got a lot of other things that they can do too, you know. And I have to humble myself yet, and it's something that it's a humbling experience for me, is to be the janitor. Let the newcomer go up and do the area service work now, and I like to do some of the janitor work for a change again, you know, and feel good about my recovery, you know. And there's so much, you know, I can do in this fellowship, and I just know continuously, selfishly serving and humbling myself on a daily basis is something that I've been given freely, and what I've been given is I have to give it away, and it is something that my sponsor talks to me a lot about, and I have to try to stay out of the controversy and try to get the spiritual values of this fellowship, and what I can do is learn and keep learning and keep having an open mind so I don't get a big head. And that's what I have to watch, complacency, because complacency, I end up getting the big ego head, and it's something I can work on today. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Anybody else need to share?
We got about 10 more minutes.
Hi, I'm Jim. I'm an addict.
Hi, Jim.
And I remember telling not too long ago in this meeting that when I first came out of this treatment facility, I was looking for a way to stop the pain, you know, and I had gotten, like Bill had mentioned, I had gotten to a point where I wanted to die, but I couldn't kill myself. And I was in that limbo, that it was hell, you know, and I didn't know that there was a way out. And then I come into this treatment facility, I'm told about 12 steps, and I'm told that I could recover. And I came to believe that if it worked for all these other people, then it would work for me. And I made a decision to do whatever these people told me to do, you know, and that's the way I looked at the first 3 steps. That's what I did. I came to believe, and I made a decision, and I started working on my 4th step. I started writing, which is something that I wasn't good at. And as the days turned into weeks, and the weeks turned into months, I found that, you know, saying my morning prayer, asking God not to let me use for that day, and going to a meeting every night was not enough. It was good for the first couple months, but I started to feel stagnant, you know, and it was at that point that I really started getting into my 4th step, actually writing, sitting down with pen and paper, doing something, writing. This is what I could do. And I found that when I was doing that, I was relieved of the complacency that I was feeling. And then, you know, a few months more had passed, and I found that I had to let go of all that stuff for another person. And that's when, you know, I did my 5th step. Another thing that I did, this is what I did. And all this while, I'm still, you know, trying to understand this higher power that was working, and sharing, you know, the little bit of serenity and a little bit of peace of mind that I had found in those few short months. I was trying to share that with new people, you know, and I was real selfish. I believed that it was a selfish person, and I went to meetings for me, and it was me all the way. And I found that I found out through the 4th and 5th step that as it said in this book, the core of my addiction is self-obsession. It's the me attitude. And I was told that the only way I was ever going to continue to recover and have any kind of peace of mind was to reach out and give what I had gotten back to the new people and try to be unselfish. And when I realized how selfish and self-centered I was totally entirely ready to have God remove that stuff. And I asked him, God, please take away my selfishness, take away my fear, so that I can do your will and I can be of better service to other people, and that's when I got involved in service work, being a GSR, being a secretary for a group, making coffee, and I found that by being involved on the service end of the fellowship, I got more self-esteem. I felt more, I felt like I belonged more. I was a part of. I wasn't just on the outside looking in. I was in it. I was involved. And I had never been involved in anything ever. And that made me feel so good. And I dove into service work, and I took on, as much responsibilities as I could handle. And my attitude was, one day at a time, I can do a tremendous amount of calling the hotline and going to meetings and sharing with the newcomer and driving people to meetings, and doing all the suggestions, plus anything else that anybody suggested to me that I do, and I just dove into it, and I got all wrapped up in service work, and it made me feel good for a while, but after a couple months I was empty again, and I realized that I had totally gotten out of myself, and I got the big head. And it was me, I was doing all this stuff, and I got real pissed off when people weren't as active as I was, and that attitude started coming back, and that me attitude, and so I knew that I had to get back to, I had to step out of the service work, and I had to step back into working the steps on a regular basis, and this whole time I was praying, but I don't know. I just got caught up in I don't know what it was, and it was at that point that I started writing my 8th step list, and again I found relief. I didn't feel complacent anymore. I was moving forward, and then God put these people into my life to start making amends to, and then I started getting back into service work, and again, today my attitude is that there is a lot of things that I can do to help carry the message. There's a lot of things that I have to do for my own program. I have to pray every morning, and I have to pray for God's will for me, and ask Him for the willingness to accept it, whatever it is. And I have to pray for strength to do what I think I'm supposed to do. And I choose to be real active. It's something that today that I know I don't really have to be involved in area service or regional service. I don't have to call the hotline every day. I don't have to write reports for my area. I don't have to get involved with all the controversies about our growing up process as a fellowship. Even though I choose to get involved in all the controversy, I don't have to. But what I do have to do is something that Bill touched on is what I do at my group. Area service, regional service, all the other services are nice. They are important, but if I become so wrapped up in being a chairperson for area or being an RSR that when I go into my home group I have an air of importance, the primary purpose of the group is gone. And for me, you know, the most, like Phil said, the most spiritual thing that he does is to get to that meeting early, to welcome the newcomer. And for me, the most spiritual thing that I can do is to reach out and to hug somebody, give them their first hug when they walk into an NA meeting. It's a freedom that I have been given through this fellowship, because when I walked through these doors, I was an untouchable, you know, and nobody touched me, and I wouldn't let anybody touch me, and I didn't allow myself to get hugged for months, and the freedom of being able to walk up to that new guy who walks into the door, and I know how he feels, you know, he feels like an untouchable too, and through the love that I have received through this fellowship, I'm able to have the strength, and God gives me the strength to be able to reach out and hug that person and give them my phone number and say, give me a call anytime, day or night, and mean it. And when I get that hotline call 3 o'clock in the morning, you know, and I just, you know, I say yeah, you know, and I'm half dozing, but I'm there. I'm there, and I care. And you know, it's something that, you know, I choose to do. You know, I don't have to do this. You know, I don't have to do anything. But for my own happiness and for my own peace of mind, I need to give it away as I've gotten it, and I have to allow other people to give it away the way they need to give it away. I've tried to force people into getting active in service work, and that doesn't work. You know, what I do, how I work my program may kill somebody else, and I have to remember that, you know, and my program is for me and nobody else. And what I choose to do may be different than what you choose to do, but that's okay, because we're all here and we all care, and that's all.
Well, we're out of time here. I think the tape's just about up. Is there anybody with a real burning desire to share? All we got is about a minute. No? Well, why don't we close with the Lord's Prayer?